In a small, forgotten town nestled between fog-covered hills, there stood a mansion known to the locals as the Hollows. It was a place of legend, a decaying structure abandoned for decades, yet somehow, it never seemed to crumble. The windows remained intact, the stone wall still solid, but it was the air around the mansion that was peculiar, an unsettling stillness that made even the bravest souls hesitate at its gates. For years, the townspeople had whispered about the house, its cursed history, and the strange happenings that plagued anyone who dared to enter. But there was one person who was never deterred by rumors, the curious, determined woman named Eliza Gray. Eliza had spent her childhood in this town, always intrigued by the stories surrounding the Hollows. As a child, she'd heard the tales of the mysterious woman who had once lived there, a woman who had vanished without a trace. The town spoke of her in hushed voices, saying she had made a deal with something dark and otherworldly, a deal that had led to her disappearance. No one knew for sure, and the mysteries of the Hollows only grew with each passing year. As Eliza grew older, the stories didn't fade, they became more compelling. When she returned to the town as an adult, she made it her mission to uncover the truth. She rented a small cabin at the edge of the town and spent weeks preparing herself for the journey into the heart of the Hollows. The mansion stood on the farthest hill, shrouded in mist, casting a long shadow over the town at sunset. One crisp autumn evening, when the sun was just a faint orange glow on the horizon, Eliza stood at the gates of the Hollows. She could feel the weight of history pressing on her chest, the air thick with something unexplainable. The rusted gates creaked as she pushed them open, the sound echoing across the empty land. The mansion loomed ahead, its Gothic architecture intimidating, its windows staring back like empty eyes. Eliza's heart raced with a mixture of excitement and fear. She had heard the stories, the whispers in the town square, the strange figures seen through the mansion's windows at night, but she was determined to see it for herself. She stepped onto the overgrown path that led up to the front door. Her footsteps were muffled by the carpet of fallen leaves, but she couldn't shake the feeling that someone, or something, was watching her. The air grew colder as she approached the entrance, a chill that seemed to seep into her very bones. When she reached the door, it was ajar. A faint creak echoed through the silence as she pushed it open, revealing the grand foyer. The smell of dust and decay filled the air, and the floorboards groaned under her weight. The once beautiful chandelier hung crooked, its crystals tarnished with age, and the walls were covered in peeling wallpaper, faded and torn by time. Eliza stepped further into the house, her flashlight casting eerie shadows across the room. The silence was almost suffocating. Every inch of the mansion seemed to hum with an energy that was both unsettling and magnetic. She could feel the weight of its secrets pressing on her shoulders. As she explored the dark hallways, the only sound was the soft whisper of wind through the broken windows. But then, she heard it, a faint voice, barely audible, but unmistakably human. It came from upstairs. Eliza hesitated. The voice was soft, as if calling to her, but the words were unintelligible. She couldn't tell whether it was real or just her imagination playing tricks on her, but something in her gut told her it was no coincidence. The voice seemed to pull her, beckoning her to follow. With a steady breath, she made her way up the creaking staircase. The air grew colder with each step, and the whispers grew louder, more distinct. Her heart raced, but her determination kept her moving forward. At the top of the stairs, the hallway stretched out before her, lined with doors to rooms long forgotten. Eliza Gray stood frozen, her breath forming a ghostly mist in the frigid air of the room. The door behind her had slammed shut with a deafening thud, and now, she was trapped, alone in the eerie silence of the mansion. The mirror before her shimmered in the dim light, the surface rippling as if alive, reflecting her every movement, but distorting her features, making them appear far more gaunt than they were. Her pulse quickened, and she instinctively reached for the door, trying the knob, but it wouldn't budge. The room was stifling now, the air thick with a suffocating chill. As Eliza stepped back from the mirror, she thought she saw something shift in its reflection. A figure, fleeting but unmistakable, standing just behind her, someone who was not there. Who's there? Eliza's voice trembled as she spun around. The room was empty, the only sounds the crackling of old wood beneath her feet. The voice in the reflection seemed to beckon her, a faint whisper that echoed in the silence. It sounded like a woman's voice, soft and melodic, though laced with an underlying sadness. The words were indistinct, like a murmur caught in the wind. She strained her ears, but she couldn't make them out. Something urged her closer to the mirror. Despite every instinct telling her to leave, Eliza felt an overwhelming pull, a desire to understand what lay beyond its surface. Her reflection, though distorted, seemed to move independently, its gaze following her every step. She raised her hand to touch the mirror, and as her fingers brushed against the cold surface, a sharp jolt of energy coursed through her body, causing her to stumble back. The room seemed to twist, and the walls, once firm and real, now bent in on themselves, the ceiling pressing down like the heavy hand of an unseen force. Her heart raced as the temperature dropped further, her breath now visible in the cold, stifling air. Suddenly, the whispers grew louder, clearer. "Help me," they begged, a voice so sorrowful it sent shivers down her spine. "Who are you?" Eliza whispered, though she didn't expect an answer. But the voice responded. "It's too late," the voice murmured, a deep sorrow pooling in its tone. "She never left. The curse, it never left." Confused and more than a little afraid, Eliza's gaze darted around the room, searching for the source of the words. As if on cue, the mirror's surface darkened, the once shimmering surface turning black, the glass no longer reflecting her, but something far darker. In the depths of the glass, a pair of glowing eyes emerged, eyes that pierced through her with an intensity that made her knees buckle. Eliza gasped, her hand instinctively reaching for her chest as if to calm her racing heart. The eyes stared at her for what felt like an eternity, unblinking, unmoving, until a low, guttural voice broke the silence. "Leave this place. Leave now, or become part of it forever." Eliza didn't need any further encouragement. Her fingers scrambled for the door handle, but it was still locked. She backed away, her eyes never leaving the mirror, her breath coming in sharp, panicked gasps. The air in the room shifted. The walls groaned as if the house itself was alive, shifting its weight, adjusting its form. With a sudden jolt, the door flew open, sending Eliza crashing backward into the hallway. She scrambled to her feet, her heart pounding as she sprinted away from the mirror and down the dark, narrow corridor. The house was alive, the walls breathing, the floors groaning, the doors swinging open.